So undefended love, what is that? How can we be that with each other? And so I thought the best way to talk about how do we be undefended is to first talk about how do we defend ourselves in love. So first of all, remember that we are either the eminence of love, we know it, we feel it, we are it, or we're seeking love. So when we look at somebody that, like a 2-year-old that's misbehaving, seeking love. Adults that throw temper tantrums because we do, seeking love. And so what if we saw that instead of the fact that we needed to defend ourselves against what was being presented to us? And so the first way we present defended love is we want to problem solve and fix whatever's going on because we're uncomfortable. That's why we do it. And I had a good example of that this morning. And I wish I could tell you I went right in to undefended love. And if I did, it would be a really short story. So I have a really good friend, and we were all going to an event this past week. And there was a misunderstanding about this particular friend joining us. And so in her mind, because this is what we do as humans, she made up a story about why she was not being included. And to her, that story was very real. And then she had the courage to tell us, this is what happened, this is how I feel. And instead of saying, I hear you, I am so sorry that happened, and to be mindful that it would never happen again, out of my mouth came, I'm sorry, I really thought that you were going to contact us. Because I did. That was the honest truth. However, defended love, I'm sorry, I don't want to take responsibility for any part of this. And so, we had an agreement, and I'm sorry that you misunderstood the agreement. Or undefended love, listening to somebody who is reaching out. Think of the courage it took, first of all, to tell us, this is what happened, this is how I felt. She didn't make us wrong, this is just how I felt. And so the undefended response would be, I am so sorry you felt that way. That certainly was not any of our intention. We would never leave you out. Ever. That's undefended love. Can you feel the difference? Absolutely. And yet what we do, or at least I do, is I run to make it like I didn't mean to hurt you, and this is the reason, this is what you should have known. This is what I did, so I didn't mean to hurt you. But that doesn't solve the problem that she was hurt. That just makes me feel less responsible. And we teach, I am not responsible for her feelings. She gets to choose how she feels, correct? However, in undefended love, she gets to feel that way. She gets to share that with me. And then I don't have to make her, I don't have to discount the way she felt. It's not about making her right or wrong. It's just not discounting, because those emotions are real. Those emotions are absolutely real. So that's problem solving, and then just finding a way to respond that honors what the person is saying or doing, and not defending yourself. Think of how we would shift the energy of the planet if we all started to stop problem solving every time somebody had an issue. To really listen to them and say, oh, I understand. The first time somebody introduced me to the problem solving undefended love paradigm was Alice Bandy, who is a minister, Reverend Alice Bandy, who's a minister down in San Diego. And she talked about, she was teaching a class, and she said to us, she was walking through the building, and a woman said hello to her, and Reverend Alice didn't hear her, and she walked on by. And later on, the woman said to her, you never say hello to me. And rather than defending herself, Reverend Alice said, I am so sorry that you feel that way. It certainly is never my intention not to say hello to you, period. Not I was busy, not I didn't see you in the hallway, because all of that is defending what just happened. Just, I am so sorry you felt that way. It's an honoring of other people's emotions. They're still their emotions, but it's honoring the fact that they feel that way. And I think sometimes, especially when we're new to this teaching, or sometimes when we get the religious science attitude, if you will, hey, those are your feelings, sorry, deal with it. I get to be over here, and those are your feelings. That's not what we mean when we teach that you're responsible for your feelings. What we're teaching is those are your feelings. And if you feel that way, you need to tell people, and you need to use I statements. This is how I felt when this happened. Not you were wrong. This is just how I felt when this happened. So the second way we defend ourselves is morally and ethically. Do you ever take the moral and ethical high road? I think we all do. Because we think that when we do that, we are absolutely right. So morals and ethics are based on personal belief and how we as a society have decided this works and this doesn't. And some of those are perfect, because maybe if we didn't know that we had to pay for groceries, we'd just go in the grocery store and take everything and walk out and think everything was free. So we have quote unquote rules. However, it was really interesting recently. I watch Stephen Colbert. It's how I get my news. I will own that. It's the only way I can get my news, because there's a little bit of humor attached. Stephen Colbert was talking to Morgan Freeman. And Morgan Freeman has a program, I think this is the second or third season, where he goes around the world and he meets people in different cultures. And what are their morals? What are their ethics? How are we connected? How are we different? And he shared this story because he said, I don't know if he used the word curious, but he wasn't offended by it, but it made him think. And Stephen Colbert, I will tell you, was offended when he heard the story that this happened. He was like, I think you should be offended. So in this culture, thousands of years old, I don't remember on what continent or what country it was in, they have a process. When a young man becomes of age, he runs out with, I'm going to say bulls, but I don't think it was bulls, but he runs with these animals. And while he's doing this, the women of the village are singing and doing chants in the village. And then at a particular time in the process, the women of the village take a stick and go up to the men of the village and taunt them until the man of the village takes the stick from her and smacks her with it. Yeah. Doesn't work here. Does not work here. Gentlemen, if you ever thought, oh, hey, yeah, no, does not work here. However, it is part of their religious or spiritual or whatever you want to call it in this tribe. It is a rite of passage that everybody's included in. And so we could take the moral high ground and say, that is totally inappropriate. And it is to us. There are lots of things that happen in different countries. And then you struggle with, oh, we need to change that. We shouldn't treat other humans that way. And so it's one of those quote unquote moral dilemmas that you really have to start to think when you defend yourself on a moral ground. The moral ground of my first husband had an affair. Morally, terrible to me. How could he do that? You know, what was he thinking? Why would he do that? And yet there are many couples out there that have quote unquote open relationships. For me, the answer would be no. But yet, we all have this place where we defend ourselves morally and ethically, and I know those are extreme examples, and still we defend ourselves on that ground with not even knowing if the person we're defending ourselves with is in agreement with us. What if they've been raised entirely different from us? What if in their culture it's fine to have 2 or 3 wives? Or what if in the way they were brought up, open marriage is a way of living life? We need to start from a place of my idea. So I'll take the marriage idea. My idea of marriage is if you have 2 consenting adults and everybody in that relationship knows exactly what's happening, then it's none of my business. It's not any of my business either if they don't know what's going on, unless one of them happens to be a really good friend of mine. Sorry. But I would tell. But I'm saying is we get on this moral high ground, even as religious scientists. We get on a moral high ground of what is right and what is wrong. And then we say, so let's just take the Christian faith. You know, we come in here, a lot of us have been raised a certain way, and we come in here because there's a sense of freedom, a sense of non-judgment, there, you know, a sense of not being dogmatic, and we come in sometimes hurt and damaged the way we were raised. And so there is those people. Now, not everybody feels that way when they come in here. We have some people that come in here and still go to Catholic churches. We have some people that come in here and they still honor their Jewish faith. That is the beauty of what we teach here. And that's undefended love. That's undefended love. There is no container that's just right. You know, there's no box. It's what I loved about this philosophy. It's why, yes, I can take responsibility for my past, but I don't have to let my past drive my bus, so it's creating my future or my today. That's beautiful. And then the other way we get defended, you're all going to love this. It's that male-female thing. All females do this. All males do this. And I never am privy to totally male conversations, so I can't speak from there. I'm going to assume you have these conversations with your buddies. Females have these conversations, and most men do this. Most men believe that way. And what we've done is we've pigeonholed everybody that's male. Or, if you're doing it from the male perspective, everybody that's female. No group. You can't say everybody in that group is one way. It's just not true. We teach here we're each unique, individualized expressions of God. Every single one of us. And so to group people together on their gender, on their race, on where they go to church, on who they choose to love, what you're doing is limiting yourself when you do that. You're not limiting them. You're limiting yourself because you've chosen to take somebody and put them in your perfect little box. Well, this is who they are, so this is how they get to behave. And guess what? When they're dealing with you, that is exactly how they're going to behave. Or they will not be in your visible realm. Because remember, we attract to us. We attract to us. So Byron Katie has difficult work for me. Started out smooth when I started reading her book, and the more I got into it, I was like, oh, okay. But she says to ask yourself 4 questions. And the first question is, when you have a thought, is that thought true? My husband cheated on me. Is that thought true? Yes, that thought was true. However, for some people it may be, I don't know. I have an assumption that my husband is cheating on me. So the second question, and I'm going to look at these so I don't mess them up. The second question is, can you absolutely know it's true? So the real answer to the first question is, my husband's having an affair. Do I know that's true? The real answer is no, because he never admitted it. So truthfully, if I were to answer that question, the answer would be no. Do I absolutely know that that's true? No, not unless somebody told me, and that would have to be him or hers. There was more than one. So you understand where she's going with this? So then the question is, how do I react? How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? Because now I'm taking control. So the only true, and then the last question is, who would I be without that thought? So what if the marriage is just over? Then I'm going around telling a story about why the marriage ended. Because why? Because I want people to feel sorry for me. And not saying that when a marriage ends that it can't be devastating for one of the two partners. He did me a favor. It was not devastating, just so you know. He would have liked to continue the marriage, I think probably in that realm. So how do we do undefended love? How do we do that? So there's 3 steps. First thing you do when you start to get in an emotional upheaval about anything, somebody comes to you and says, I really wanted to go to that event and you guys made me feel like I didn't, no, that wasn't what was said. I really wanted to go to that event and I made up a story about why I felt I wasn't invited. So what I could have done was just stop and really listen to my body. How did that make me feel? I felt ashamed. My emotion. But I felt hurt and bad that I'd done this to a friend. So undefended love is to recognize that and notice, what would I usually do? I would usually make an excuse of why that happened. Which then what happens, it discounts how she felt. And so if I really take a breath and listen, then I can come from that place like I explained. I can come from that place of saying, I'm so sorry you felt that way. That would never be my intention, to hurt you or to leave you out of anything that we're doing. So stop. Look. And the look is about, how are you reacting? How are you feeling? How are you behaving? I remember the other day, I came home and I have found, as extroverted as I am, if I go out too many evenings in a row, I really need some introverted time. Because what happens to me is my energy doesn't have time to settle. It's like every event kind of cranks it up a little bit more, cranks it up a little bit more. I don't sleep as well, so lack of sleep is not a good Gayle to be around. And so what I realized, fortunately, in the privacy of my own home with my husband, who, he's my champion, he's my best friend. And he literally walked by me, and I forget even what he said, and every fiber in my being wanted to just scream at him. Literally just scream at him. I can't even remember what I wanted to scream, but trust me, it was valid in the moment. And then I listened to all of that, and out of my mouth came, I really need to get to bed tonight at a decent time. I need some quiet time. Could you do this for me? Which he said yes to. I said, because right now I am on the edge of blowing a gasket. And they aren't pretty. Nobody blows a gasket and has anybody around them think, oh yeah, that looks like fun. Wow, I can hardly wait till she does that again. So literally, you stop, you look at what is it that's going on in you that makes you want to defend yourself. And then do something different. And then the last one truly is listen. And even though last week we talked about listening to other people, listening to each other, this is about listening to you. Really listen to what is going on. Why was that button pushed? Because we all have areas that are unhealed. Most of us, 90% of us, probably 99% of us. And guess what? Somebody out there has just the right word, just the right comment to come in and just push that button. And so to really listen and then ask yourself those 4 questions. As the way, what I'm thinking right now, is that true? Why would I think that about a man who absolutely adores me? Why on earth would I want to blow up at that person? The truth is, why do we want to blow up at anybody? And so that is undefended love. Stop, look, and listen. All about you choosing to show up in relationship, in any relationship, differently. Being vulnerable, which I know is hard for most of us, because when we're undefended, the first thing that comes up is we're going to get hurt, because that's how we've been domesticated. That's what we've been taught to believe. Vulnerability is a place of really knowing who you are and owning it completely, and then sharing that with everybody. So I invite us all to just take a moment and we'll pray. So knowing that there is just the one life, it's God's life, it's perfect, it's whole, it's complete, it's me, it's all of you, it's everyone, everywhere. It is that space that only knows truth. It holds that container where we are undefended, where we are vulnerable, where we know and feel at a deep, deep level the vibration of love between us. And so I speak my word for this community, knowing that each one of us has that opportunity to make a difference in the world by showing up and being different, choosing to be undefended in everything that we say or do, choosing to really be that powerful presence that we know we are, that voice that says yes, that heart that cracks open wide and allows everybody in. And so I just know that each one of us this week, when we feel that defense within ourselves start to come up, we take a moment. We stop, we look, we listen, and we let our guard down. And in letting down our guard, we hear the other person. And we don't take it personal. And we honor what they're saying and share our love with them, knowing that that shift within the two of us will ripple out and affect people we don't even know. And so I just say thank you, God. Thank you for this day, for this community, for this way of being in the world, undefended, vulnerable, and open to all mankind. I turn it over, I let it go, I let it be, knowing that God's got it. The yes is already reverberated back to each one of us. So in that, I just say thank you, God. And so it is. Namaste.